Hello, everyone. This is Adam at PsychedelicInvest.com. I hope you guys are all having a wonderful day today. In today's episode, I have a special episode for you guys. I'm doing a collaboration with ControlPlusZ and Jake, whose name on Reddit is MindMed. I think MindMed3415, something like that.
31415.
There you go. And these are two gentlemen who have an extreme amount of knowledge in regards to Atai life sciences. And I'm happy to have them on the show to just help bounce some ideas around in regards to Atai and the earnings report that just came out on the 10th of this month. So that's what we're going to be doing. That's what we're going to be getting into. And yeah, without further ado, let's jump into things. All right, guys, so to get things started here, I'm just going to be reading off the highlights and some of the bullets from the earnings report, and then we're just going to me, Jake, and Control are just going to be like elaborating and giving our thoughts on everything as we kind of piece through this. So let's start with the first thing. The last patient dosed in the phase 2A proof of concept trial of PCN-101, that's Atai's formulation of ketamine, R-ketamine, for treatment-resistant depression, with top-line results expected around year-end 2022. So this is a big one for Atai Life Sciences, and I know Jake knows plenty about this one. So please, Jake, if you can just share.
So I'll just start with Atai for a second. What makes Atai a special company is that all of their drugs are backed up by either anecdotal evidence or strong third-party data. And when I looked at the investor deck for Atai and looked at one of the third-party studies, there's an open label study and with 7 patients with treatment-resistant depression. And after the 24-hour mark, there was a 20-point reduction in the MADRS score. And this was with minimal to no dissociation. So this drug could be an absolute game changer. Something to note is Jonathan Sporn, the guy who sold Perception Neuroscience to Atai, is actually working on the pill version of this drug. So I think that just shows extreme confidence in the mechanism of action that we have going on here. And I'm very, very excited to see these results. I hope they come out soon.
Is this for the ketamine that Atai's working on that has like less dissociative, so it's like a higher safety profile?
Yeah, and yes, and they're measuring dissociation through what's called the CADS scoring system. And in their phase 1 and in the open label studies, they showed that it was so below 4 is considered normal. And I believe with the 30 milligram, they had 4. The score was like a little below 4. And with the 60 milligram, it was at certain points during the dosing, it was a little bit above. So we'll see. But I think, yeah, the goal is for at-home use. So I think they need a 4 below. Maybe there's some leeway if it's a little bit above, but not too sure. But it's definitely interesting, and it could be a game changer. Control was mentioning before, Fierce Biotech said this drug has the potential to do $750 million in sales eventually. So it's something to look out for.
Yeah, absolutely. And for reference, Zoloft at its height did around $1 billion. So definitely huge opportunity.
And another thing, this makes me think of, so I was looking around at the competition for treatment-resistant depression, and it looks like the only FDA-approved drug is Spravato, and there might be another one, but so this would be the first like rapid-acting potent antidepressant for treatment-resistant depression. Now, Axum Therapeutics has a drug called Auvelity, and it's rapid-acting. It works within a week. But that's for major depressive disorder, and they actually failed in treatment-resistant depression. So I think they're 2 totally different indications. Maybe not totally different, but there's a difference. And Atai's looking to come into an area with significant unmet medical need. It's one of their mottos. Yeah.
So let me. I just want to understand. So this is going to be their at-home ketamine therapy. So the way they plan on achieving this was by obviously making the dissociative effects less pronounced. So is this going to have no dissociative effect like typical ketamine does, or will have some?
So it looks like with the 30 milligrams, there's going to be very minimal, probably enough to make it so the FDA would say, okay, this is safe to use at home. But with 60 milligrams, I checked the investor deck. It looks like it does go a little bit above 4, and I'm not so sure how the FDA would feel about that. But who knows? Maybe they end up having an at-home version, and maybe if someone's very depressed, maybe suicidal, maybe they go to an inpatient clinic and they're administered the 60 milligram R-ketamine. I'm not too sure though.
All right, awesome. Thanks for the response. All right, I'm going to jump to the next bullet here. So, announced positive preliminary pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics results in a phase 1 study of GRX-917 deuterated etifoxine being developed for generalized anxiety disorder, demonstrating target engagement based on QEEG. So, etifoxine, I know I've spoken to both of you guys about this at length. How do we feel about this?
Yeah, I can jump in here for a second. This is one that I'm not an expert on, but the first thing that comes to my mind here, and I don't have the answer for this, so maybe you gentlemen do. LSD. This is designed to combat anxiety. I've never seen a head-to-head comparison between this drug and like what MindMed is working on. It would be fantastic to kind of see those two head-to-head. And as I understand that this is a benzo class drug that they're tweaking a little bit so that it doesn't have the sort of addictive potential. But I'll turn it over to you two. I think you know a little bit more about this than I do.
Sorry, Adam.
No, Jake, go for it, please.
All right. So etifoxine is already sold in France, and I believe 30 to 40 other countries. And again, with the third party and data that Atai has, they've compared it against other benzos, and it was shown to be as effective, if not a little bit more effective, and without the without sedation and like Control is saying, addictive properties. And through deuteration, what they're able to do is, 1, get patent protection on the drug. 2, they're also able to improve the pharmacokinetics of the drug. So it's another interesting drug in Atai's pipeline. To be honest, I'm very interested in Atai's psychedelic drugs, but I'm equally as excited when it comes to their non-psychedelic drugs.
The market is definitely giving a premium to non-psychedelic drugs, and I have mixed feelings about that. I mean, I'm seeing insane multiples from like a seed round to where we're at today. Like some, and again, these are evaluations they may never, get in the open market, 25, 50x markups. So the market is definitely giving a premium to these non-psychedelic drugs, even though in a lot of cases they're not proven. But hopefully this is another blockbuster, hopefully. And I tell you a little bit of personal story here. There was a point in my life where I was on some benzos, and I remember coming off of them being hell, and a doctor tightened restrictions on those. We're still in the early stages, but they actually would urine test you to make sure you're actually taking them and not selling them. And there are several people I've talked to that feel that this is going to be a problem similar to what we're experiencing with opioids, where it's going to be very, very hard to get them, very, very hard to get off of them. And that all drives alternatives, the need for alternatives.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, Control. So give you guys a little bit more perspective in regards. So this is where my opinion on etifoxine gets shaped from. So basically right now, gabapentin, and I think like pregabalin, but gabapentin specifically, anything that these drugs, this new class of like benzo-like drugs that they're using, they basically have a higher. The claim is that something like gabapentin has a higher safety profile than benzos, and is less addicting and whatever, and that it's easier to come off of. And it's being prescribed very, very frequently these days. I'm sure anybody watching this video either knows what gabapentin is or knows somebody who is prescribed gabapentin. It's that common. And you'll even go to a lot of clinics, mental health clinics, that refuse to prescribe benzos, but they will prescribe gabapentin like it's water. So the thing with gabapentin is, though, is the claim was that it's a much higher safety profile than benzos, but the reality is that it's far from that. Coming off of gabapentin can lead to some severe withdrawal, and obviously it comes with a lot of dependence as well. The withdrawals and just stopping gabapentin, it's not as dangerous as benzos, but it is extremely difficult to get through whatever withdrawals that come with that. And this is something that's being prescribed very, very frequently these days. So now I bring this up like for the main reason to illustrate my point that I think etifoxine could end up filling the niche that gabapentin is currently filling. So I think there's going to be, within the next 5 years, some big stink being made about obviously benzos in general, which is currently happening, and other benzo-like drugs like gabapentin, like to the two controls credit, like what he was kind of saying. And I think that gabapentin is going to end up being prescribed much less frequently once the mainstream media starts to pick up on the fact that it's very addicting and that it's extremely hard to quit. So, and people are going to rehab for gabapentin. But anyway, to get back to the point here, is I think that there's going to be a big stink made up about gabapentin in the very near future, and I think etifoxine would be the perfect drug to come in and fill that role. So I actually got my hands on etifoxine. I got it from overseas. I think I got it from Ukraine, to be honest. I got it shipped over from Ukraine, and I wanted to try it for a month just to kind of do my own little mini trial to feel out the effects, because I thought the claims that were being made were pretty grand. And so what I did notice is the anti-anxiety effects were extremely mild, but there was no dependence, and it was very easy to stop even after using it for a month straight, every day. So those are my big takeaways from that. So that's why I think it would actually be perfect as a very mild anti-anxiety, which is what gabapentin is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a more mild anti-anxiety medication, that with a higher safety profile. And that's where I think etifoxine shines, is the safety profile is very good. It's non-habit forming. It's easy to stop. It's just about how potent of an anti-anxiety effect you're expecting with it. So that's my thoughts on etifoxine. I think that the addressable market here is significant. And if it can take any type of market share from any of these companies pushing benzos or gabapentin, that's very significant for Atai.
And just another thing, the current standard of care for anxiety disorders is SSRIs, and we know the side effects associated with those drugs, and they definitely work for a lot of people. But it would be nice to have a drug like deuterated etifoxine that is specific for generalized anxiety disorder, without the addictive properties and without the addictive properties and without the sedation. And generalized anxiety disorder is, in all likelihood, even a bigger problem than depression right now, if you think about it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think listening to these companies talk, though, well, this is exactly what they've said, that GAD doesn't have the high unmet need of like treatment-resistant depression. You know, having suffered through some of that and known people as well, it still can be debilitating. It'll be interesting to see, listening to Adam here talk about it being more mild, where do we end up 3 to 5 years? Is it going to be LSD, macrodose LSD is for severe cases, but perhaps the first line of defense is this? So I think that's still something to watch, is the LSD for generalized anxiety as well. I haven't seen anything comparing the two side by side, of course, yet.
And I hear that. And in my experience between using the two, LSD definitely has a more profound effect on anxiety. But the thing with LSD is it also gives you anxiety too at the same time.
That's for sure.
So it's just it's an interesting, like I love microdosing LSD. It's one of the things I swear by, and I do use it for anxiety and amongst other things. I love it. But yeah, I think etifoxine is definitely would be a good, like, before anyone tries anything else, like, give them this, see if that works for them. It's very mild, obviously high safety profile, and also so by deuterating it, I think one of the more the cooler things that occurs or useful is that the half-life will increase. So by increasing the half-life of something that people are taking for anxiety, then they just have to dose less often. So let's say if somebody's taking Xanax, it would have to be every couple hours. Maybe with deuterated etifoxine, it would be every 8 hours or something like that. I'm just speculating here. And then we also have with LSD would be dosing every, like, maybe even 12 hours, maybe every once in a while. Like, it's just LSD is a completely different beast when it comes to anxiety. It's really interesting. But yeah, so yeah, agreed with you guys on the sentiments shared there. All right, next thing, and this is one of my favorite things in Atai's pipeline. I just want to say that, and like I've said this before, and I'm gonna keep talking about how overlooked this KUR-101 is. So announced positive preliminary results of the single ascending dose portion of the phase 1 study of KUR-101. Deuterated mitragynine being developed for opioid use disorder, demonstrating dose-dependent pain relief with effects on respiration comparable to that of a placebo. So this to me is significant as hell. So just because of the addressable market that mitragynine or kratom, we're gonna call it kratom, mitragynine, whatever. It's all the same thing for this video, whoever's watching. But basically, mitragynine is essentially an opiate with a very high safety profile. There is a huge addressable market for this in terms of just having safer opiates out there. Because at the end of the day, opiates are never going away. They're effective for what they do. They help people with pain relief. Hopefully, at some point, we'll have LSD for pain relief and different psychedelics that can fill that role in a much safer way. But until we get to that point, so stuff like mitragynine, which is, once again, you do not get respiratory depression from kratom, from mitragynine. That is the single best thing it has going for it. It's an opiate that does not lead to respiratory depression if you start to get to those higher dosages, which means that you more than likely will not overdose. I think that there is only one recorded death from an overdose from kratom in history, and I also think that the person who was recorded dying of kratom, or this one recorded death, had a bunch of other drugs in their system too. So this is just to speak to how safe mitragynine is, and now you have Atai working on deuterated mitragynine, which I just think the addressable market is gigantic. We know it's safe. So many people are using kratom every day. You can literally buy it online. People are helping wean themselves off stronger opiates. People are helping with their own pain management in regards to using kratom. It's being used. It's safe. The only thing that people have to worry about when they're buying the kratom plant actually is that to make sure they're getting it from a source where they're paying attention to how much heavy metals the plant is leaching from the soil. But now with Atai working on something like this, you don't even have to worry about any of that stuff. Hopefully it will be as easy as just getting mitragynine prescribed for they're talking here for opioid use disorder, but I'm 100% sure they would also prescribe it for pain management as well, and a litany of other things. It's just very effective, safe drug in terms of mitragynine, and deuterating it, once again, increasing the half-life, will make it that much more efficient. What do you guys think?
Sorry, Control.
Sorry. I don't have much to add on the molecule itself, but I think you made an excellent point there that we shouldn't lose sight of. and that opioids aren't going away. And the reason they aren't going away is there are people who are still in need of that pain relief. And unfortunately, as we made opioids harder to get, those people aren't able to get the pain relief that they need. So I'm really hoping some alternative makes it to market. And from what I've heard so far, and I think this is a great alternative.
Definitely. So I have a question for you two. So if they're looking at it for pain and also just to get people off of opiates, I would assume they're going to have to run 2 different clinical trials for that. What do you guys think about that?
Phase 1, I actually had an interaction with somebody about this as well, so I'll pipe in here real quick on phase 1. So phase 1 is, does it hurt you? You know, safety in humans. And if you've ran that for indication A, you don't need to rerun it for indication B. It could be something completely different. And then phase 2, of course, you have, does it work and what dose to use? And you can skip phase 2 completely and go straight to phase 3, although it's expensive and high risk. So phase 2 would really be up to Atai. They have the data. I could see, for example, Compass being very aggressive on phase 2. Compass is already skipping phase 1s. Their most recent trials are starting with phase 2. I can see them even getting more aggressive with this. So it really is up to Atai. I would be surprised if they reran a phase 1, or maybe they rerun a phase 1, concurrently. So that's kind of my take on it.
All right, guys. And now the next bullet. They announced the first patient dosed in the phase 1 SAD trial of VLS-01 DMT being developed for treatment-resistant depression. Initiation of phase 1 trial of EMP-01, which is MDMA, which is their MDMA derivative, being developed for PTSD. And initiation of proof of concept phase 1 clinical trial of the Sol gel-based direct-to-brain drug delivery technology. So VLS-01 is the oral DMT dissolvable film that Atai is doing with Intelgenics. So I covered this in a previous video. In my opinion, I think that this is going to end up being one of the most significant lost that word there. It's going to be one of the premier ways of doing DMT in the future. So the way we've done DMT throughout the years has always been pretty simple. It's either you take it in a ayahuasca or a pharmahuasca concoction, or you smoke DMT and you get the effects that way. And then if you knew people in labs or something like that, you could have gotten DMT IV flushes or just getting it IV'd in general, but that's very, very rare. So at the end of the day, taking the whole aspect of having to smoke the DMT out of the equation and being able to ingest it in order to get those effects, that the onset will be very, very quick, because those strips that Intelgenics and Atai are working on, they skip first pass digestion. I think that's really, really significant. And also not having to mix the strips with MAO inhibitors, which can have a number of side effects on people when they do take them. And that's usually what makes DMT orally bioavailable, is MAO inhibitors. So now they put them on these strips, which skip first pass digestion, and now you don't need MAO inhibitors. So I think this is going to be, so number one, it's just, in my opinion, it's a breakthrough in terms of the way we look at taking DMT in general. I love that Atai is focused on DMT, because I think the therapeutic benefits in DMT are extremely, extremely high when compared to other psychedelics. And I also think these strips are just, from a business angle, a really, really interesting way of capturing the DMT market. People don't have to smoke anything. They can just ingest one of these dissolvable strips, exactly like a Listerine strips. They'll go through the whole process of having their DMT experience, and they'll get their therapy or their therapeutic benefits from it. I just think this is easy to overlook, but I think that if this passes phase 3 in the FDA. I think this is the oral DMT films will be something that will start making waves, and it would become one of the more popular ways of doing psychedelics in general. What do you guys think about the oral DMT, the dissolvable oral films?
Well, it makes me when I'm looking at the DMT program, two questions come to mind, and you guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts. One is, what do you guys think about the competition in the space with DMT? Not 5-MeO, just DMT. We have Small Pharma, Cybin, and I believe one other company. And second question would be, this digital therapeutics app, is it going to make it so maybe there's only one therapist involved, considering that, so the typical psychedelic therapy, the way it's done, there's, you guys know, preparation, dosing session, integration. Now with the app, are they going to be able to maybe have just one therapist doing this? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I can jump in here first. I certainly don't have all the answers here, but one thing I can say is it seems like the path to IP protection has been quite rocky with DMT. I believe, and I'm getting this from somebody on Reddit that I can't remember the exact quote, but I knew somebody that I trust, that Atai had to recently tweak the DMT patent a little bit because of competition. And I think if you look through GH Pharma's patent application, somebody anonymously filed for a review of that patent based on some prior art. So it seems a little bit messy here for the patent protection. As far as, how do we scale this in technology? I have seen several patents emerge from Atai and its subsidiaries about using everything from a web page to even augmented reality and virtual reality in an attempt to help scale these out. So there's a lot of unanswered questions here, both on the IP front and how this is going to scale. And if I remember correctly, they're actually looking to extend the DMT experience with these strips a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. So it would last a little bit longer than, let's just say, a smoked session.
No, you're absolutely right. They do want to, I don't know how long they plan on extending them for, but I do know that that is the goal, which I would never complain about a longer time in DMT world, but that's very interesting. I would wonder how this stacks up with Cybin's deuterated DMT. And is like, so one of the things I've been trying to confirm is like the deuterated DMT that Cybin's working on, is that like a fumarate? Is that something you smoke, or is that ingested?
Adam, I think they were actually working with Intel Gen X also, like Atai was, and then I know they stopped that partnership. I think they might be doing inhalation, but I could be wrong. Control, you hear anything about this?
No, I haven't. I will say, while we talk about delivery methods, while Atai has publicly been, very vocal about all the IP that they've wrapped up, and they did a hell of a job wrapping up a lot of the earlier IP, that they did admit that delivery methods were one of the areas that they missed a little bit. So certainly with telegenics, and perhaps there are other examples. I'm not aware of any, but it stands to reason there could be some, especially with markets being so depressed, that they could be looking at as well. So delivery methods are sort of a hot topic right now for Atai.
So yeah, back to what Jake said, Cybin had a deal with Intel Gen X originally. They were doing psilocybin on these oral dissolvable strips. Now, they did one trial together, that like everything worked out, whatever. It started and it finished. And then the partnership kind of dissolved. But my feeling in terms of what happened was, basically around the time that they were doing this with Cybin is when Atai purchased 25% of IGXT. And that's a huge conflict of interest for Cybin, for Atai to have that ownership stake there. So I'm pretty sure part of the deal when Atai came in and and made their purchase was that Intelligenics cannot work with any other psychedelic companies, so they had to stop any of those other programs. That's my feeling. I can't get this confirmed or denied, but it makes sense in regards to the timeline of how everything broke down and why and what happened. And now you see Atai putting psychedelics on strips. Now they have, I think, 2 already with IGXT that are announced. One of them is the LSD, the DMT. The second one is, I'm pretty sure it's salvia. They're doing salvia on a strip. Now there's like a rumored third one that people are speculating on what it might be, and my feeling is it's going to be psilocybin on strip. So yeah, that's just if you guys want some speculation.
Adam, I believe they cut the salvia program, and to be honest with you, I'm fine with that. I've never heard of many people having a great experience on salvia. And but just a question for you, Adam. I know you've had some experience with DMT. I don't know if you've done ayahuasca or what. With the therapeutic potential of DMT, do you think making it longer would be more beneficial, or is the really short trip the way to go? What do you think?
That's actually tough to answer because with DMT, it's the length of the experience is never what gave me more or less therapeutic benefits. It's more so the intensity of the experience. So as long as I get to a breakthrough experience, whether it lasts 5 minutes or 15 minutes, I always come out feeling like reborn in some way. You feel new. And you feel like the therapeutic benefits are very, very significant, especially on anxiety and depression. They just really, really do a good job of curbing any anxiety and a lot of depression. So in regards to extending the duration, I'm assuming that, yeah, sure, it should help with in terms of reaping the therapeutic benefits, because I guess just looking at it logically, the longer a drug is in your system active, I guess maybe the longer you can reap the therapeutic benefits from. But in terms of if you're looking at it from just like a psychedelic experience, I just think having extra time in there would be interesting for any insights you want to bring back for yourself. So it doesn't necessarily have to be from like the pharmacological therapeutic benefits that you'll get, but maybe just from some of the psychedelic insights you might get just from being in that DMT world longer. But I don't know. I always vacillate between feeling like a DMT experience is just the perfect amount of time and also too short. That's usually like the two opinions I kind of like. I always go between either it's too short or it's the perfect amount of time. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see how things pan out with that specifically. But I don't know what type of effect increasing the duration of the psychedelic experience would have on the therapeutic benefits.
Well, we're on the topic of duration here briefly. There was, and this was in response to an analyst comment. So it was just a little bit of brainstorming. Tai's chief medical officer did sort of throw out the idea of using very short DMT experience to stabilize somebody if they were a threat to themselves or others, or just, completely in need of help right then and there. DMT would be the thing to turn that person around or stabilize them until you could go, into the next course of action.
That's actually really interesting.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's really like it's sticky territory or dicey. Only because like if you just have to make sure the person isn't bipolar or prone to like hypomania or manic, like, because I think the one thing I'll recognize with DMT specifically, or psychedelics in general, but DMT more so, and I think obviously to your credit, you said lower doses, so that would probably be why it would be more effective that way. But in general, like DMT can throw people into manic episodes pretty effectively if you're doing the right dose. So I'm talking about breakthrough doses, higher doses, and it's one of the psychedelics that I've seen do it more than other psychedelics. So like I've seen people who suffer from bipolar disorder do shrooms and they're fine, and like multiple mushroom experiences, but like one breakthrough DMT experience can be can spell trouble for them sometimes. So just something to keep note of All right, so then we'll move on to the next one, which is the derivative of MDMA. So I admittedly do not know much about this coming out of Atai. If you guys want to take the lead on this one, please.
I know nothing about this really.
You know,
That makes me feel good. Control. If you don't know much about it, then it means I was like, all right, so I wasn't
This
slacking.
is one of them that's still. I think they're just trying to look for a way to compete with maps here. They're like, oh shit, we can't beat Rick Doblin at this. We're not first to market. What do we do? Let's recreate it.
Something that's funny about this program. I think Dr. Srinivas Rao from Atai was saying that their MDMA program would be MAPS 2.0, and Rick Doblin responded saying Atai's MDMA program would be MDMA assisted therapy 0.5. So that's just something to think about. With I guess I'm sure he wants it to be 2 therapists. We were talking about maybe this digital app gets rid of a therapist, but what I know about this program, very little, but I know they're trying to get rid of the stimulant like effects of MDMA, because I don't have experience with MDMA, but I know that there's a little bit of a brutal come down for some people. And I'm pretty sure Atai is trying with this derivative to get rid of the stimulant like effects.
So then on to the last thing. We have this, and I'm really excited. I love delivery systems, guys. If you haven't told you, couldn't tell yet, I really do. I appreciate them. I think they're a very, very often overlooked subsector within biotech, and I think they're very interesting. And at the end of the day, we've been using pills for so long. Yes, they're effective. Yes, they're cheap, but I think there is room for an evolution within drug delivery systems, and I think that between IntelGenx and their oral film delivery strips, and also this. So this is their Sol Gel based direct to brain drug delivery technology. I think that any basically a nasal spray with drugs, or with this has Sol Gel based direct to brain drug delivery technology. I think the applications here are really interesting. So number one, for any drug that is meant to enhance or to help people with cognitive impairment. So with Atai, we have RL-007, which is for cognitive impairment that comes with schizophrenia. But like, you could look at Alzheimer's medications that would be great for people. And like, if you really want to speculate, I think psychedelics on a nasal spray would be very, very interesting, especially if you want like targeted neuroplasticity, neuroregeneration. It's just really, really interesting to me. And like this, I don't know, I'm just really intrigued by this. They don't mention any type of drug that they want to put on it. It's just basically, I guess, proving that the delivery method is safe right now. But I'm really, really intrigued by this. How about you guys?
Yeah, like I said, delivery methods are something that's very interesting. I think they're a path to carve out some intellectual property, but at the same time, it definitely makes sense, the path to skip the first path, digestion. Multiple reasons there.
Last thing we have is ended the quarter with $304 million in cash, which combined with non-dilutive funding facility, with the non-dilutive funding facility from Hercules, provides anticipated runway into 2025. So Atai's runway is significant as hell at this point. There isn't much to worry about until, well, according to what they're saying, 2025. This is great. And I love that they secured non-dilutive financing. I think that was, I've mentioned it in other videos, that was a big deal in terms of signaling confidence to their investors, and in general, just making retail friendly moves. How do you guys feel about this?
Yeah, I had a comment on here, and I think I want to touch on one thing quick, then I'll read you a bullet here from an investor's note that Ty sent out, Christian Engemeyer specifically, to his network that was pre-IPO investors in Atai. So there was an SEC filing, I believe it came out at about the same time as the release here we're looking at, that about $150 million offering That was an amendment to a previous shelf offering. And I think the amendment just specified the terms. I think the broker was to be Jeffries and they'd get like a 3% fee for that. Some people took that as they were going to immediately dilute another 150 million, or I should say 150 million, not another. I'll just read you a quick bullet here. And this isn't labeled confidential or anything. This is just an investor's note. It says, runway into 2025, no equity capital raises needed. It's with all of my bias as a founder of Atai, it potentially become a double-digit billion-dollar company soon. So any fundraising at these valuations would be crazy. So Atai definitely feels that very strongly that any kind of dilution near term is not on the table.
Awesome. So I was just showing that that document on the screen there, the prospectus. So yeah, in terms of in general, just Atai continues to, in my opinion, them and Compass are just leading the way right now, very easily. The cash runway looks good, the pipeline looks great. Everything is just looking like it's firing on all cylinders right now, even given the current market tailwinds. How do you feel about everything, Jake?
Well, in times like these with the markets not looking so pretty, it's as an investor in Atai, it's nice to know that they're prepared for the worst and they have a strong cash runway to 2025. And in that time period, we're going to get, they said we're going to get proof of concept data from all of their programs within the next 16 to 18 months, I believe they said. And hopefully that'll help with the market cap. And then if they need to raise more in the future, they'll be able to at a better valuation.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to watch how this story unfolds. Yeah, all in all, how do you feel about this earnings report for Atai Life Sciences? I think this was, this is called bullish versus bearish. I think this was definitely, they're keeping their bullish stamp of approval from me currently.
Most definitely. Strong cash position. And they're just, I think all of their programs are in the clinic right now. And it's, you being invested in Atai, you gotta, they have 2 drugs that are in phase 2, but a lot in phase 1. We're going to have to be patient. And I have no doubt that they're going to execute to the best of their ability. They've done that so far, and I don't think anything's going to change.
Agreed. And their ability to raise funds in general is just second to none. And that's going to be what everyone is concerned about for the next year or so. So it's a good place to be. Do your own due diligence, sort it out for yourself. I hope you guys derive some value out of this episode of Bullish versus Bearish. So my name is Adam Tubero with Psychedelic Invest. That's Jake. Let him say goodbye.
Bye, guys. Adam, thank you so much for having me on. I had a great time talking about Atai.
All right, no problem. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode, and we'll see you guys next episode. Have a good day.